8 additional American citizens plus a permanent U.S. resident are believed to be among those still held hostage by Hamas. Earlier, we spoke about the situation inside Gaza with retired Rear Admiral John Kirby, he, the National Security Council's chief spokesperson. Admiral, thank you very much for joining us. We also just heard about the release of the first American little 4-year-old Abigail Edan, turned 4 in captivity, should be going to school. Instead, 50 days in tunnels, conditions unknown. The president spoke to her family. What do we know about how she's doing, understanding both her parents are dead? And then if you could, what do we know about the likelihood of these 8 additional Americans being free anytime soon?
Well, we don't have much to share about Abigail's condition. As you can imagine, she's getting the proper medical care that she obviously would need after 50-some-odd days in captivity, and what we have to assume were horrendous conditions, that coming on the slaughter of her parents right in front of her eyes. So obviously our thoughts and prayers are with their family and, of course, with little Abigail, and we'll be rooting for her. As for the other Americans that we believe are in captivity, being held hostage, we don't have a whole lot of information about them, where they are, what condition they might be in, or what exactly the schedule would be for their release. That said, as you heard the president say over the weekend, we're going to keep working at this hour by hour, and we certainly have every hope that when these 4 days are over with and the original agreement is done, that Hamas will be able to come up with more hostages in coming days to allow that pause to continue and allow more people to get out.
Is the U.S. hopeful that that the ceasefire will be extended beyond this day 4? I mean, from where you're sitting right now, what you know from behind the scenes, is it likely that we get a day 5, a day 6, maybe even a day 7 of this pause?
We don't know. I mean, obviously, today's focus is on getting another batch of hostages out. Here we are on, on day 3 of this. We want to keep this going as much as possible. But again, this is really going to depend on Hamas and their willingness. The Israelis have said they're willing to keep the pause in place, stop the fighting for a while, to allow for more hostages, something like 10 per day after these 4 days are over. And we certainly hope that can be affected. But again, we just don't know. So the immediate focus is on getting another round of hostages out today, and of course, getting more humanitarian assistance in.
Admiral, I've got a bigger picture question. We all know this is about regional stability there and Iran's efforts to control the Middle East. There was an incident off the coast of Yemen when an Israeli-linked ship was in distress. A U.S. Navy ship moved in the direction of that ship and then came under ballistic missile fire. It's a vague report. Can you flesh it out for us, and how concerned are you?
Well, we're talking about a Navy destroyer operating in the Gulf of Aden. Came across a distress call by a merchant vessel there was an attempted piracy. They responded, interdicted, were able to apprehend the would-be pirates, and obviously they'll be doing the necessary adjudication of those individuals as we have done before. It's a violation of international law, of course, and yes, that particular ship detected missile launches that would have taken these missiles in the general vicinity of the ship. Deeming it an appropriate threat, they reacted, responded, and were able to down those missiles. Now, I will say those missiles didn't come close to the ship. There were no casualties on the Navy ship, and no damage to it.
That is good news, and we're all rooting for the additional release of hostages as well. Admiral John Kirby, thank you very much.
My pleasure.